question, who is God to me and why do I follow Jesus? Creating personal spiritual disciplines such as prayer, Bible study, worship, and outside of church. And building a relationship with God that isn't filtered through family, pastors, or friends. So let's dive right in. When did you first realize that faith had to be personal and just not cultural or inherited?
Well, I feel like a lot of us growing up, I feel like if not everybody, started off as inherited faith because growing up, like your mom, your dad, your family members, they took you to church. You had no choice but to go to church. Somewhere in the midst of that, you found your footing and started. I mean, discovering what your faith is, or like instead of inherited faith, instead of doing it because you're forced to do it, or like let's go to church, you kind of found like you got to like your own walk with Christ and like build your own faith essentially. I don't know if that answered the question. No.
No, it did. When did you first realize that it had to be personal and not just cultural?
Mm, when did I realize that faith has to be personal and not culture? I feel like maybe probably when a lot when 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 things are going wrong in your life and then you're trying to figure out where, because sometimes you kind of like walk away and then kind of
Mm-hmm.
like go back to like what you know, like you grow up like going to church with your parents and knowing that God is able to do the impossible. And then when you're going, at least for me, when I was going through some challenges, I left. I left church. I didn't want anything to do with it. And then when it got really really difficult, I'm just like, let me go find this God that I was told that can do impossible things. And that's kind of like how I started my faith and my work with Christ. Basically, going back to the basics of what I know from just going with parents or quote unquote inherited faith.
I agree. I would say the same thing for me. I felt like faith had to be personal and not inherited when I had the choice of going to church and not going. That's
Mm-hmm.
really where it started. Once I reached that age where I wasn't drawn to church anymore, I mean, obviously, when I had the choice to not go, I obviously didn't go. And that's when I realized that, um, yeah, this wasn't about my mom. But at the same time, I think inherited faith is good. Like the Bible says that train up your child in the way that you want them to go.
Mm-hmm.
Without inherited faith, I mean inherited faith is a stepping stone to building your personal
I
faith.
agree.